Good morning, everybody. So today's going to be a little bit more of a recovery day than a hard working day, but we are going to get our blood pumping. But today's focus will be the MyT-Roller. So hopefully you have one. If you don't, then this might be a little bit more of a class you want to watch rather than try to participate in, because there's not much else that I found that works as well as the MyT-Roller. So again, if you'd rather just play one of the other videos, go to a workout, please feel free to. But today's going to be more of working with the MyT-Roller. So a couple things that you're going to need along with the MyT-Roller for today's session is we want to have a good band, something on your medium side. This is a lighter, your second lightest maybe, or a medium. And then we want to have a couple yoga blocks. I got one that's smaller than the other, but they can both be the same size. If you don't have yoga blocks, maybe some firm pillows from your couch might work well. So let's go ahead and we're going to start on our feet by moving a little bit, get your blood pumping to warm up. And so let's go ahead and start with a couple of your heavier weights. And let's grab one in each hand. And I just want you to march nice and slow. Let's wake up our balance rather than getting into a big, fast-paced walk. Let's just warm up by pushing our foot into the floor as we float that other knee up. Try and make sure you're not pinching your knees together. You're pushing space between your groin as you push through the floor with your down leg. And now let's go ahead and pick up the pace just a little bit. And as we're doing it, we want to make sure that our feet are pushing into the floor and staying cocked as they reach in front of us. We don't want to have our toes pointing to the ground or lifting our feet like this. We want them lifting in front, nice and wide, through our march. Good, a couple more, and then we're going to slow it back down. And let's go with some balance. Find your balance for 2 seconds. Push through the floor to find that balance. Your knee will straighten out, but it should not lock. You're never focused on locking your knee. You're trying to push energy through the floor with the down foot. One more each leg. And go ahead and rest your weights down for a second. Relax your hands. Shake out any tension that you might have from holding those weights. Act like you got water on your arms. Just shake it out. And so one of the things that we're doing today is really working out our shoulder area. The MyT-Rollers are great for a lot of things, and I've used them before in class and shown you how to use them for your hips and into your feet. But today I'd like to focus on this area because with all of us at our desks and driving or sitting and just spending more time on a computer with all the virtual life that we have, we tend to get a little rounded over, and so that puts a lot of strain into our neck, our shoulders, and our arms. And so we want to make sure we don't get plagued down with carpal tunnel or tennis elbow or any shoulder impingement injuries or any neck strains because of the fact that we're rounding and we're not registering that we need to kind of keep everything open. And it's one thing to tell yourself to do the right thing. It's another thing when the soft tissue is pulling you into a position that you can't quite get yourself out of without some soft tissue work. So let's go ahead and do a couple more things to warm up. This one, let's use our red band. We're going to come on our feet, and I want you to do our Spider-Man reaches. So we want the band to be on our forearms, but not directly on your wrist or on your hand. You'll hold tension in it or you'll push into it too much. What I want is you to be in the balls of your feet with your weight. I don't want you lean back. And I want you to reach your elbows out straight like you're releasing a spider web out through each finger. And then I want you to release and rest back in. As you go out, be careful that you don't find yourself leaning back to go out. We want to keep ourselves stationary in your body. So that means those shoulder blades and abs are going to have to really anchor to the floor to make sure that they don't either track out with the arms or that they don't try and brace through the back. We want to really use those abdominals to release your spider web out every time. Let's go for 3 more. You should feel a slight stretch in your chest as that open chest reaches those elbows out straight, and relax. And so what I'd like to do next, we're going to keep this one more time. Don't quite drop it yet. And we're going to go more of an upward arm action this time. And so as we're going into the upward arm action, same rule applies. You're thinking about your Spider-Man, releasing the web out of your elbow, but really using those shoulders and abs to pack everything down to keep it from moving with the arms. And so now as we go up, make sure that your shoulders lock down to the floor as your fingers reach up to the sky. And I'm going to go down onto my knees just so you can see better. Sorry, limitations of the camera angle. And I want you to be focused on getting those elbows straight as you track up. If you go up and you can't get your elbows straight, then I'd like you to track a little lower to feel the shoulders anchoring down to get the elbows straight. We don't want to go into ranges where our shoulders peak up or we can't get that elbow straight. Good. And one view from the front, your arms can go wide, but do not get caught trying to spread the band. You're just trying to use the strength of the band to hold your arms from falling out. Okay? Good. So hopefully your shoulders and your body's a little bit warmed up. So we're going to go into our first rolling action. And on this one, you're going to want a block for your head to rest on. And everybody's a little different here. So if you get into the position and it feels like your head is like, if it feels like it's hanging off a cliff and you need more support, you can always tip your block up taller. But I don't like to start with it up here because not many people need it that high, so I don't need it to start that high. So you're going to put that one down on the bed, on the floor for your head. I want the rollers to go about 8 inches, not quite a foot, but a little bit more than 6 inches away from your block. And then we're going to have the other block in our hand until we get into position. And so as you lay down onto the rollers, you want your spine to be right between the 2 balls when you lay down, and you want them to be somewhere around your bra strap, okay? Or the bottom of your ribs. And if you can't get movement to your arms to touch them, then just lift your butt up and kind of roll to where you need to be. And then once you feel like they're right around the bra strap area, that's when we're going to use our other block to lift us up a bit. I like to put it vertically so it's at the base of my butt and also supporting the bottom of my spine. So that way I don't have a cliff that my hip is resting on, but my back is on its own. And so here we're going to use our band. Hopefully it's still close to you. And what we're going to do is just loosely hold the band so that you've got it in between your hand. And what I want you to do is keep your grip on the band just to help support both arms as you let your arms rest over your head and then come back up. And so the balls are either on a very tender point for you right now or they're not, and that's okay. We're going to do a couple different places. So if you feel like you want to move down or up to get them into a more sensitive spot for you, then feel free to do that now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of some arm movements. One thing to note, your feet should be a little closer together than your knees, and you should be loose and wide. What I don't want is anything where your feet are really wide and your knees are pinching together, because this, as it gets uncomfortable, we want to make sure that there's width here and you're not using these as a way to pull on your back. And so what I want is you first just to settle into the balls and feel that if there is a really excruciatingly tender point, that you're giving it time to just breathe and release. And as uncomfortable as something might be, sometimes we just need to breathe and release and let that stress dissipate. We don't want to see there's a tender point and avoid it at all costs, because that tender point becomes problematic if we ignore it for too long. So as we drift our arms slightly overhead, make sure your ribs stay anchored down on the balls. We don't want to try and lift off the balls. If anything, it feels like you're almost putting more pressure into the balls as your arms track overhead. Just make sure those shoulders don't creep up over your ears. And so now we're going to set that band down, and what we're going to do is we're going to lash our fingers at the front up ahead of us. And now we're going to let our hands bend the elbows slightly, stop halfway down, let the balls settle underneath your muscles, and then come back up. And so we're just going to do a little bit of this massage in that area between your shoulder blade and your spine. And so now, from that same position with your hands interlaced together, we're going to put one arm overhead while the other arm drops towards the floor by your hip. And then we're going to come up to the top, and we're going to reverse that. Let the other hand drop down to the hip as the other one goes overhead. And let's just do that 2 more times, each hand position. So the right goes up. Use your exhales. Remember, if you're just enduring pain, right goes down. If you're just enduring your pain here and you're not breathing and letting it go, then you're kind of wasting your time and sometimes just making things worse. We really just want to release. Use this as an opportunity to relax any stresses from your day. Good. Anything, last one, right, going down. Anything that's been on your mind, it's a good time to just let it go. You might not have found a solution to the thing that you're thinking about, but you also have been working towards it. So feel good about the progress you've made and let things go. This is a good mental release, just as good as it is a physical release. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to move on the balls a little bit. And so for this, it should not be, do not sit up, do not get up. Let's try and make it as easy as possible. And so what you're going to do is you're going to slightly bring your block about 2 inches lower. So you want it to go out towards your feet 2 inches. And then you're going to use the other, you're going to just lift your butt up to shift down those 2 inches. And now you should be 2 inches higher on the rollers. And yes, just bring the block for your head along with you. And so usually I find that when I go those extra 2 inches, I start feeling I'm closer to the center point. And so we're going to do the same thing where we use you can either use the band, or you could use interlace fingers for this as well. As you go overhead, just let the ribs stay anchored down as your shoulders stay away from your ears. Let any tension in the muscles on top of the ball release into the ball. Bring your hands back up. Let's do 3 times, letting those arms track slowly overhead. Breathing and releasing any tension in that point between your shoulder blade and your ears. Not right now. And then we go out to the side. And then we go back up. And then we go out to the side 2 more times. And then we go into our alternating. You won't get it all. And we go into our alternating on the right going up. Please close the door. Please alternate to the right going down. Right going up 1 more time. Right going down. And then go ahead and relax onto the ground for a second. And so what I'd like you to do next is we're going to come off of the balls for a second, and we're going to work into our arms for another set of our banded ones. Look in the white shirts. And so as you're in a position, whether you're on your knees or whether you're standing, it doesn't matter to me, whatever you feel more comfortable doing. If you want to sit on something, if that's comfortable. But if none of this feels good on your knees, then feel free to come right back up to your feet and do the same drill of letting that spider web shoot through your fingertips and lock through your shoulder blades and your abs as you really keep the ab muscles tight and the feet pushing through the floor with each action. And so let's go up a couple times. So again, make sure that that band isn't right on your wrist. We want to be a little bit higher than your wrist so it's not holding tension in your hand or your wrist during these. And let's go one more, keeping those ribs and chin anchored down as you reach towards the sky and your shoulders reach towards the ground. And release. Good. All right, so the next thing I'd like to do is an extension before we go back down onto the rollers for another release on our shoulder. And so with the extension, we're going to do it standing, but then we're also going to do it sitting. And just so you know what you might need to have available in a few minutes, we want when we sit to be on either something about this height, or you could even sit onto a chair if nothing feels comfortable at a low position. So it's all kind of dependent on your range of motion and your hips, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for right now, we're going to do a standing one. Okay, so you can just use your mind to think about what you want to sit on in the next set. So as we're here, we're going to find our weight to the balls of the feet. We do not want to be rocked back into our heels. We want to really feel anchored through our ribs, anchored through our chin, pushing energy through the floor with our feet. And now I want you to turn the palms forward and reach through your middle fingers, reach through your elbows, reach through the back of your neck towards the sky as your chin drops down, ribs anchoring down to the floor, pushing your energy through the floor, through your knees, driving everything as long, opening through your chest, feeling the stretch through your chest muscles as your ribs stay anchored to the floor. Keep breathing for 5, reaching, 3, 2, and rest. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to go into your extensions on the floor next. So I need you to find that block or whatever position that you think you can sit with your legs outstretched in front of you with no tension or pain, okay? And so when we are sitting here, we want our sits bones to be seated on the block. We don't want any tipping, rounding, flexing forward, and we don't want to have any bend in our knees. So if it's uncomfortable for you to let your knees relax out and feel this as a comfortable position, then you might want to come a little higher. The other thing is you want to make sure you're not too far back onto whatever you're sitting, because that's going to make your pelvis want to tip forward and make you round your back. So we really want to feel that we're sitting tall on those sits bones. Our toes are up towards the ceiling. Our heels are out away from us. Our hands are down by our side. If you were to be sitting on the floor, which I don't really recommend for your first couple times unless you're like 15 or 20, but when you're sitting down, if you're on something, you have room out to the side to put your hands out. But if you were on the ground, you would just put your hands a little wider so that you're not touching the floor, okay? And so let's go ahead, and I want you to reach through your heels, reach through your fingers, reach through the back of your neck, anchor your ribs down, think about your chin staying low and not lifting as you reach, and keep reaching the chest open as your fingertips all reach through the floor, heels reaching away, toes pulling towards you. Breathe. 5, 4, 3, 2, and melt. Good. Roll your shoulders, bounce your knees a little bit. We're going to make our way back down to the rollers, and I'd like to find the same place that you were in last time with the rollers. So we're going to put one block up for your head. We're going to put the rollers about a foot lower now. Actually, no. Let's go about 4 inches from the block. So we're a little closer to the block than we left off last time. And so let's actually... we're going to do something a little bit different. I lied. We're going to switch our position up a little bit. So instead of being on our back again, because I showed you that one, we have a little bit of limited time. That's the main reason that I'm kind of switching my original plan. What I'd like to do is you're going to use one block to rest your head on. Okay, we're going to be side-lying for this one. And then the other block is going to be for your hip to be on. So essentially, your hip and your head are supported by a block, and you're on your shoulder, but you're not squishing it because of the fact that the block is under your head. So now what I want you to do is put the rollers like they were diagonally on your shoulder. So looking at it like this, they go from the armpit out the top of the shoulder up at the top. And so when you lay on them here, you probably want, because of that added space, you probably want to turn your block up so it's sideways so you have enough. I always want a neutral neck in whatever position we're in as we're on these rollers. I never want you to be hanging your head off a cliff. That's not going to do anything good for your shoulder. And so same thing, that's why we also have this block underneath our hip. It's to keep our spine in a much more neutral position. So as we're laying here, you should feel the ball on the back side of your armpit where the ball and socket of your shoulder joint meets your armpit. And you've got one ball kind of on the front side of that armpit juncture. And so what we're going to do is just bend that hand of the arm that's on the balls up towards the ceiling. And so what I'd like you to do is just let that hand, without straightening out the bend of your elbow, you're going to rotate that hand up like a windshield wiper, and then you're going to rotate it down like a windshield wiper. And so we're just trying to feel the uncomfort, feel the muscle that may be bound up and tight, and just try and work your ranges without letting your shoulder pinch and roll or your neck hold tension. You're trying to work the muscle that's tight into loosening up, because we're producing a massage on that fascia and on that muscle that are causing a restriction in your shoulder. And so let it hang in that position where it's down towards, with the palm facing up and the back of the hand near the floor. And then reverse it one more time, and let's push that hand, that palm down towards the floor without letting the shoulder rotate into anything painful. Let that arm stay there. Don't try and bend the wrist to the floor, rather push the wrist to the floor without bending the wrist. And then come back up to normal. And then just reposition slightly. Push it back a little bit further. Bring it down. Yeah, that's what it is. Don't push it back further. Bring it down just a little bit further so it's not quite as close to your head. And you'll feel that there's another little place that's very similar. And if none of this is painful, then you may not have that much tension in your shoulder, and this might not be the most productive video for you. But if you're somebody who sits a lot in the front of a computer or has been feeling stresses growing in their shoulders and their neck, this is the video for you to make sure that you're releasing some of those tensions rather than holding on to them. And so now we're going to do the other side, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and turn to the other side and show you from the back what it looks like. So make sure as you're turning, you can flip to the other side so you can still see me if you'd like. But make sure that you start with the roller in that diagonal position from close to your body low to the outside. Actually, when you lay on it, you want one ball in front of your armpit and one ball in back of your armpit. That might be the best way of feeling that. We want to find where you can balance on your block and you can feel good control. We never want to be pinched in our legs. We kind of want to be open on our legs as we're finding our position. And so let me just do a quick check. Yes, I think you can see what you need to see. And so now I want you to do a little bit more of those windshield wiper, letting the hand rotate up and let the back of the hand touch the floor, and then rotate that hand back the other way. And don't force the hand to the floor. Rather, just feel the tension under the ball releasing as you work this range of motion, and just force a little oxygen into something that's been really blocked up for a little bit. If there's a lot of tension in these places, then they're not getting a lot of circulation. They're not getting a lot of oxygen, so that tension grows and builds into bigger problems. So we like to just not be scared by the fact that we have tension in something. What we do is find comfort in the fact that if we can release that tension and get something to get oxygen to it and to get moving, then it feels better. And if something feels better after we do something with it, we don't get locked into the perception that that we're hurt, or that there's something that we have to worry about, or there's something going on. We just need to keep releasing it and making sure that we don't let that tension grow and build without being addressed with daily movements or rolling or a good routine of exercise. So let's go ahead and slowly come on up to your knees. Let's sit into a shin box for a second. And as we sit in that shin box, we haven't even done anything to really work the hips this morning. I just wanted to kind of have a comfortable place for you to kind of sit for a second and take some pressure off of those arms. Those don't always feel good, but they're so productive. So I always, I always force a little discomfort into your life will take a lot of the pain out of it, right? Pain is not discomfort. Discomfort is learning that your body doesn't like something, so you can fix it a little bit. You can make it better. You can challenge it to do it better, but don't keep drilling into something that doesn't improve. That's a sign that we want to make sure we make a change. If something's not improving, if pain is not getting better, if pain is staying in that spot, it's not to say that there's something wrong with it. You just need to find somebody who's going to help you get it moving without pushing you so hard that you end up injuring it further. So find good trainers. Good trainers are hard to come by. So even if it's not me, make sure that you're getting moving and you're really not getting plagued down by thinking that something that hurts is broken and needs to be fixed. It just needs to be worked on with some soft tissue and some strengthening. So with that being said, let's finish with one stretch. And this is, I'm going to say, this is not the easiest stretch to do. And so you're going to get your challenge pants on, okay? And so what I need from you when you're in this stretch is you need to have your hands, you can do this on the floor, but I find that many of my clients don't quite have the range of motion in their knees or their hips to do that comfortably, so or well. And so I want to make sure we're doing the hardest thing you do well. So setting yourself up for success is always better than trying to do something that you have no business doing. And so I want your hands to be off the ground. They could be 18 inches off the ground. They could be 12 inches off the ground. But the big thing is, a couch that has like underneath the cushions of a couch where it might be where you can slide your hands. Sometimes that's a great position for it. But just make sure that whatever you use, you can rest your forehead on the edge of wherever you are. So now, when we're in this position, we want our butts up in the air, we want our knees wide on the mat, and we want our foreheads down on the ground. And so as we do this exercise, before we do it, let me just give us a little warning. As we do this exercise, even though it's going to look like I'm arching my back, what you're trying to do is push all the energy out of the arm that's down to make the shoulder or elbow push away from that hand. I do not want you to think, oh, I'm trying to arch my back. That may happen along the way, but it's not the muscles. I don't want you to use your back muscles to try and lift you up higher. I want you to use your abs and your lats and your arm to push you into whatever we get. Now, before you get into the position and start cranking away on this, what I want you to realize, your hips need to be a little bit behind your knees. You do not want to be where your hips are in front and you're loading all of that weight into your arms. We want to kind of comfortably be on a loose knee. Our toes are tucked under. They are part of this game. We do want to push those toes through the floor during this one. So, hands are going to be out in front. Head is going to be on the block. And I want you to make sure you have a nice little beast butt, meaning I don't want any plank butt or tucked under anything. We want to make sure we have a nice neutral spine. And so from this, you're going to put one hand on the back of your head with the elbow out wide on your surface. And now from here, you're going to push out of the left hand to lift your head off of the block. And so as you're pushing through the hand and the elbow, turn to look to the side and try and push that right elbow away from your left hand. Push that elbow away from your left hand, and then look up over your body and push. Push away. Push your forehead away from your hand, and then relax your head back down. If it doesn't feel like you're pushing into that, or you feel like anything is not what it should be, if your knees hurt, back hurts, neck hurts, please go ahead and rest on this one and don't worry about trying this one today. Learn it, look at it, watch it, practice it before you go into holding it, as long as I might be instructing. So we've got one more side, last thing we're doing, okay? So let's rest your forehead. Put your left hand on top of your head. Put your left elbow out to the side on the mat. And now push through the right arm to lift your head off of the block and look up. Now turn and look towards your elbow as you push your right hand into the block, pushing your left hand away from the right hand. And now look up over your head as you keep pushing from that right hand on the ground or on the block. And now relax back down. And come back to a sit on either your knees or a shin box, but roll your shoulders. Move your arms a little bit, shake any of the tension off. And hopefully you feel that your shoulder area has gotten warmed up, has gotten lubed up. If there's anything that went to an area that it shouldn't, or that you feel like tweaked, or you just didn't like the feeling of it, get moving today. It'll go away. Go for a walk. Go for a good chat with a friend. Just try and make sure that you're not resonating on anything that bothers you, and you keep moving and you stay positive, and more importantly than anything, you keep your mental health happy and free and light, and you address anything that's creeping up, because we don't want tensions to grow because stress is growing. So with that note, have a wonderful Friday. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.